Happy birthday, Final Cut Pro 10. 9 years old. That's pretty darn good. Let's do a little celebration here. Nine years old. Final Cut Pro 10 is 9 years old Sunday. Got a couple of comments here. Let's see. We got the first one. Paul Pedersen. Happy birthday. And then, hi, Richard. Happy FCPX birthday. The actual birthday is Sunday, of course, but I don't do too many live streams on Sunday. I don't think I've ever done a live stream on Sunday. I'm not sure if anybody else does, but Sunday's not typically a day that I'm really considering doing live streams. I do them all the other times. I do them on Saturdays, Fridays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, but not so much on Sundays. So the actual birthday is Sunday, but I figured I'd do one today. Let's see what's going on with Final Cut Pro. So everybody knows WWDC is happening. Simone says, happy birthday, my love. Of course, that's for Final Cut Pro 10 on Sunday. Everybody can wish it a happy birthday today. I'll put you on the live stream here. We'll get you going. Everybody's comment will be on there. So, what's happening in the Final Cut Pro world? Anything happening this week? Let me just check, make sure that there's been no update today. I don't think there has been. We'll just check. And I will get to the App Store. Let me see. Where is that good old App Store? Where is the good old App Store? Oh, one other thing before we do that. I put up an article over at FCPX.TV. If you go there, let me close this up a little bit, get it ready for display. So over there, good old FCPX.TV. We got another one. Happy birthday. Look at all these happy birthday wishes. Command plus K equals happy birthday. I don't know how that works. Command plus K equals happy birthday? I'm not sure how that works. Ryan says happy birthday. But anyway, we have over here on the FCPX.TV, your home for all things Final Cut Pro 10. Let me see. Let me refresh that. There we go. Happy birthday, Final Cut Pro 10. Look what we got here. We got an article right there. And the article is right there. Happy birthday, Final Cut Pro 10. Just go to FCPX.TV, the main page. Oh, I see. Ryan says keywords. Gotcha. Final Cut Pro is 9 years old on Sunday, June 21st, 2020. Congratulations to the entire Final Cut Pro 10 team at Apple for doing a great job over the last 9 years. Here's to a great year 10 with FCPX 10.5. WWDC starts on Monday, and although it is not usually an event for the Pro apps, there could be a mention of FCPX, or could there be? We'll have to wait and see. So the last Final Cut Pro Radio TV event that we had was with our friends
in offices to a big migration to everybody working at home. And so a database that resides on your machine is one thing.
All of our friends from around the globe, Final Cut Pro friends from around the globe, there. Bill Davis, Alex Gollner from the UK, of course, my friend Brad Olson. Brad Olson and I were co-editors on the documentary Off the Tracks. So here we go. I'll put both of these comments up. Command plus K equals happy birthday. And what he means is those are keywords. Of course they are. So who thinks there's going to be a mention of FCPX Final Cut Pro 10 at WWDC? I'm not 100% convinced. I'm just thinking that it would be a good time, appropriate time to mention Final Cut Pro 10.5. What do you guys and gals think? You think that's a possibility? I think it is. I think it is. They just, when they introduced the MacBook Pro 2016, at the end of the presentation, the presenter just said, oh, by the way, that's the new version of Final Cut Pro. So I'm thinking, they might mention it somewhere along the lines. They might have an actual introduction. I mean, they could actually introduce Final Cut Pro 10.5 on Monday morning or over the weekend. Over the weekend would be unusual. I don't think they've ever done Final Cut Pro release over the weekend. One time I remember they actually released it on a Sunday. I think it was 10/4 or 10/4/5. It was right the day before NAB. So it's not without precedent, but it would be very unusual. But who the heck knows? It absolutely could show up on a weekend, but it's not very likely. Let me just check this couple of things here. Make sure we're everywhere we're supposed to be. It looks like we are. It absolutely looks like we are. So let's do this. I'll put that up there. Let's do that in front. Put that on there. There we go. There's the YouTube link if you want to get to the YouTube link. So my friend Lydia Robertson says, hey, Richard, glad to hear from you, and thank you for keeping us up to date. Thank you for tuning in, Lydia. We got to have you back on Final Cut Pro Radio. So Alex says, I think it's coming on Monday together with an iPad version. The iPad version is interesting. Of course, if it comes out, I'll buy it. I mean, I'm not going to not buy it. Of course, I would buy it. I'll just be curious about that. I'll be curious about what that would look like and how that's going to work, or like with plugins and stuff. The iPad version completely. The iPad version completely will be a surprise. Although it's been talked about for about a month or so, we've dedicated a whole episode with it, talking about the possibility. I mean, it just makes sense that it's coming at some point, but I don't know if it's coming in 2020 or not. What do y'all think? 2020? Possibly. Here's a shot of my desk, my coffee. That's my mute button. I can actually mute everything. This is my second cup of coffee today. The first one was 6 o'clock this morning. This is the second one. So, Simone says, I don't think at this point that FCP will be announced at WWDC. I'm not talking about a big announcement. I'm talking about just being released around that time. Anytime today, tomorrow, not tomorrow so much, anytime. I mean, it could be released on its birthday, which they've never done before. They've never had a big release on, they've never even mentioned its birthday. We're the only ones that talk about its birthday. Apple doesn't even mention it. I've never seen them even mention his birthday. Now, when Logic came out, Logic got a whole page on the Apple press release area. They got a whole page there, so I expect Final Cut Pro 10.5 to have the same. I mean, could it be 10.4.9? Yeah, it could be. But then that means Logic is way far ahead of Final Cut Pro as far as numbers go, if they do that. I don't think they will do that at this point, but who the heck knows? Do we know? We don't know. Willie Woolley says, hello, thanks for doing this. Long-time Final Cut Pro user since the first edition, but in the last 3 years I've been on Adobe. I want to jump back into Final Cut Pro. Willie, what would make you jump back into Final Cut Pro since you're an Adobe user? What would make you jump back into Final Cut Pro? That's a good question I'd like to ask you. Emil says, I suppose if they introduce a new iMac, they should mention any of their Pro apps. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, this is not necessary. I'd be really surprised if they had a specific Final Cut Pro, if they had a specific Final Cut Pro session that was especially public during the keynote. I would be really surprised at that. I'm thinking that they're going to say, here's the new iMac, and what better thing to run it on than the new version of Final Cut Pro, version 10.5. Something along those lines. Not, highlighting in a big presentation. I would be shocked if that happened. So Willie Woolley says he was on Final Cut Pro. This is this comment. He's been on Final Cut Pro. And then I asked him what would make him jump back into Final Cut Pro, and his comment is cost. Well, Final Cut Pro wins that hands down, don't they? They win that hands down, whether it's Avid, whether it's Premiere. Final Cut Pro, $299 back in 2011, no cost for any update since then. And then Willie says user ability, I guess user friendliness, something like that. Big Dog Film says, Richard, what audio interface did you just show us? That is my favorite audio interface. This is the United Audio Apollo Twin X. Now, the Apollo Twin X, let me actually show you what behind the scenes is happening. Look at this. This is my interface. This is my plugins that I put in here that are operating real time. This is my volume. This is one of the plugins. This is a limiter that I'm using, a compressor actually. This is the channel strip that I'm using. It's an SSL. This is a Teletronics leveling amplifier. It's an old legacy one. I'm actually running through these software emulations in real time because of this. This interface, it's not cheap. This interface is very expensive. It actually, let me punch in a little. This actually has its own processing chips inside of it that runs those software plugins in real time. So I can run tube emulation, I can run tape deck, tape emulation, I can run legacy compressors. These are all tube compressors and all analog gear that I'm using over there. All this stuff, this is all analog emulation, tube emulation. That's what I prefer. So that's this guy. Now it's not cheap. This one, the Apollo Twin X, I think is about $1,400. So it's not inexpensive, and then on top of that, you have to buy the plugins themselves. So it's not inexpensive, but I do like that one a lot. That's my favorite audio interface I've ever used, especially for voice and everything. And then I'm running you can just barely see it, I'm running a Neumann TLM 103 microphone right here, just out of reach. I can actually just put it down a little bit and you just can't even see it, but it's right there underneath. So that's what I'm talking through into that Apollo, and that's where the audio comes from. I also have another audio interface that I have to play back Skype guests and things like that. Speaking of Skype guests, I asked one guy maybe he could stop in a little bit later. I'll check on that in a few minutes. So let's get back to Final Cut Pro WWDC. What do you think is happening at WWDC? Once again, I don't think there's going to be I'd be shocked, pleasantly shocked, if there was any kind of a Final Cut Pro team presentation. I don't expect that. The keynote is 10 a.m. Pacific time on Monday, which is 1 p.m. Eastern time. And it's going to be Tim Cook, of course, and the presentation is going to be at the Apple Spaceship Campus. I presume at the Steve Jobs Theater. That's what I'm presuming, but I know it's at Tim Cook. I know Tim Cook is going to be the presenter as the CEO typically always is. And that's where the presentation, now I expect them to cut away to different areas since it's going to be virtual. I'm sure there's going to be an audience there. There might be some select press members that are there seated 6 feet apart, which would be, it would be 2 or 3 chairs, something like that. 2 or 3 chairs, probably. When I mute my microphone like that, what I'm doing is I'm taking a drink. I'm taking a drink, and I mute the microphone when I'm swallowing. So I think it will be mentioned, perhaps in a short presentation, of several new things. It's 10th year starting on Monday. That's correct. The 10th year does start on Monday. This is the 9th birthday. That means the 10th year starts on Monday. So listen, if they don't do it, they don't do it. I think the possibility absolutely exists that they can do it. They can mention it. Maybe they don't even mention it. Maybe they just release it Monday or Tuesday. Final Cut Pro. Here's Final Cut Pro 10.5. Remember the. Let me pull this up here a second. They introduced Logic on a Tuesday. No, I wasn't expecting Logic 10.5. I really wasn't. Although we did see the graphic about 2 weeks before that. They mistakenly released a Final Cut Pro graphic. Let me just see if there's a... Let me just check. There's nothing there. Nothing there. Let me just check there. A couple places I checked just to keep track of things. And I don't see it there, and I don't see it there. Let's just check one more place. What's new in Final Cut Pro is still referring to Final Cut Pro. Actually, it refers to Final Cut Pro 10.4.7. I'm not sure why. But perhaps it's because 10.4.8 wasn't a big deal. So at this point, where is... Let me pull this up. Huh. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to pull this up real quick while we're there. WWDC 20, full steam ahead. Join us Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight for the WWDC keynote. I'm going to just check this real quick. Just to check, make sure the App Store isn't pulling any fast one on us. App Store, here we go. No, I don't want the iOS. I want the App Store. Well, let me pull it up here. Here we go. There we go. And I don't see anything for Final Cut Pro. Of course, I just don't. Which is not surprising. There's the latest. 6 months ago was the last update to Final Cut Pro. 6 months. And before that, this was 10.4.8, which was just a bug fix. Before that was 10.4.7 back in October, so that's like 9 months. So even the last update is getting old at this point. Final Cut Pro is definitely getting long in the tooth. Let me just pull this up. So here's the other thing. So Final Cut Pro is 9 years old, right? It will be Sunday. 2.5 of those 9 years has been dedicated to Final Cut Pro 10.4. Final Cut Pro 10.4 is actually 30 months and 5 days at this point. That's the all-time record between full number updates. 2 years, 6 months, and 5 days. The last time there was a record was 10.0 to 10.1, but 10.4 has broken that record. 10.4 is now longer between updates than 10.0 to 10.1 was. That's a long time between full number updates. They've got something up their sleeves, don't they? I think they do. I'm not going to stay on here too long today. Let's take a look on the... Oops, there we go. We got to turn that on. Turn that off, I mean. There's the backyard cam. Final Cut Pro radio, television, backyard cam. There's my bird feeder. Let's go back. Sometimes I don't do Final Cut Pro Radio, I do Richard Taylor TV, so I do the RTV is the acronym for that. But anyway, I'm not going to be on here much longer. Big Dog Film says, when was our last feature update? Well, the last feature update was actually, I consider a feature update was 10.4.4. That's 1 year and 9 months ago. 1 year and 9 months. There we go. So it's been a long time since we had a feature update. 10.4.4 introduced a bunch of new things, and that was the last full feature update. So it's way overdue, yeah. I mean, 1 year, 9 months, something like that. And now some people might say, well, we had 10.4.7 brought us Metal 2. Well, that's not really I mean, if you consider that a feature, that's fine. That's something that's done under the hood, and I don't consider that a feature. I just don't consider it a feature. So how disappointed will you be if scrolling timeline and audio features are not included in 10.5? Well, my question would be, I don't really get disappointed that it's not, I mean, that's not really whatever. They do what the heck they want to do. But they've had a scrolling timeline in Final Cut Pro since version 1. It's been in the code. It's been there. People have seen it in action. They just haven't turned it on yet. So if they can't turn that scrolling timeline on with the Mac Pro, which is what I have, then they did something wrong with coding Final Cut Pro 10, as far as I'm concerned. But as far as audio features, absolutely audio features are going to be there. I'm expecting a roles-based mixer, whatever that is. Look, it's been 2 years, 6 months, and 5 days since 10.4. 2 years, 6 months, and 5 days. What have they been doing? What have they been doing all that time? I mean, they had some incremental updates. They had a couple of features in 10.4.4. Metal 2, that was 9 months ago. They're doing something. They're doing something with 10.5. It's taken way, way, way too long. So we have a comment. I mean, if Apple is going ARM, they might as well present the new Final Cut Pro as their first ARM Pro app. I doubt that. I doubt that very much. It's not ready. The ARM machines are not ready, and the first ARM machines will probably be the low end MacBook Air. That's what I think. And then eventually they'll get around to updating iMacs and then iMac Pros and then Mac Minis, and then probably the very last Mac that they'll update will be the Mac Pro, which I have here. That's all right. If it's worth it, I'll sell my iMac Pro at that point and consider getting an ARM-based one. I would love to use my Behringer X Touch inside a mixer on Final Cut Pro 10. I absolutely think it's coming. I absolutely think that a roles-based mixer, we'll see that in 10.5. So, what else are we expecting besides all the normal things? Besides this stuff like roles-based mixer and scrolling timelines and whatever. I mean, I don't want to see anything more with 3D text, that's for sure. We've got plenty of that stuff. I'm not sure what that means, Gert. Glow, glow, glow. Glue, glue, glue. I'm not sure what the heck that means. You have to translate that for us. So anyway, WWDC on Monday. I'll be watching it live on my Apple TV, which is where I typically watch it. If there is any Final Cut Pro announcement, if they mention it at all or whatever. I mean, remember, Tim Cook mentioned Final Cut Pro and Logic. Oh, he was making a sound while I was drinking. That's why I used the mute button, so you don't hear that. You adding the sound defeats the purpose of me using the mute button, doesn't it? This guy, the mute button. Everything turns red. Let me get a drink of coffee while I'm here. See, you didn't even hear that. Nobody heard any noises there. If you look at my coffee, I have very, very strong coffee. Very strong. I put 2 full scoops of coffee for 1 cup of coffee for me. Then I add half and half or cream to it. My girlfriend says it tastes like chocolate milk. And I don't disagree with that. Let's take a look out back. No birds, no birdie birds. So besides the normal things on, let's see what else we have here. Isn't it beautiful? The backyard is very, very pretty. It's all green right now. I got to mow it for this weekend. If you look to the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the barbecue. There's the brick barbecue. And then to the left of that, I started getting some firewood for next year. They start bringing that in and stacking it. They got about a cord there right now. You can't see the full cord, but there's a cord to the left of that. So with this setup that I have here, I'm using Ecamm Live, of course. With this setup, I have right now 3 separate cameras. I have this main camera, which is a GH4. I have this camera, which is my iPhone. And on my iPhone, I'm actually running, what is that app that I'm running? It's an iPhone. It's Filmic Pro. I'm actually running Filmic Pro. This is Filmic Pro running on the iPhone, and that is the full screen mode without any of the interface. You can do that as well. And yes, so we have a comment that says, I also see the Focusrite Scarlett and seems to be getting audio in. It most certainly does. It most certainly is. So what I do there is, because of the way that the Apollo Twin X outputs audio, it's got a strange thing if you go over Thunderbolt that I can't really control the audio properly for these live events. And I get 2 separate lines of audio, and they're slightly out of phase with each other if I go over Thunderbolt 3, its connection. So I have to take the analog out of this right here, analog out, and then I feed that into the Scarlett. So the Scarlett's my main audio interface. Also, Skype will go into the Scarlett. If I play back a movie, it goes into the Scarlett. This is only being used for my vocal. And I've tried to work with them and find out what's going on, but if I use the Thunderbolt connection for this, it just doesn't work. The audio is it's like 2 separate feeds of audio going in, and they're phasing each other. One's just a split second different than the other one. One has the effects plugins, the other one does not, so I can't use that itself. Let's see if there's any updates. Updates. Oh, the DaVinci Resolve was updated. Messenger, reference X. Apple Developer was updated, but nothing from Final Cut Pro. That is weird that they haven't updated Final Cut Pro yet, but that's all right. Well, it's not that big a deal. I'm going to see one thing here. One of the things, that's good. One of the things that I can do with Final Cut Pro, with my Apollo Twin X in Ecamm, is I can have a mic delay, because the audio actually reaches the stream before the video, so I can delay the audio by a couple of frames. Right now it's 4 or 5 frames to match up. That's what my test has been. So anybody else have anything else to say? I'm not going to be on here much longer. Yeah, like I said, I'll be watching the live stream on Monday. If there's any mention of Final Cut Pro, I'll be monitoring the different places over the weekend in case there's anything going on with Final Cut Pro. Look, if they don't update Final Cut Pro, it's not that big a deal. But if they want to update it during a good time, my recommendation is to do it this weekend. Do it this weekend on Monday or Tuesday to do it in time for WWDC. 10.5. Like I said, 10.4 is now officially the longest time between full number updates of any version of Final Cut Pro 10. It's been the longest time. 30 months, 5 days. So I'll be releasing a new version of Final Cut Pro Radio. We're in our 5th year. Garrett says, have a nice weekend, Richard. I'm off with my new Mavic Air 2 drone out in the fields. Here we go. I like to see some footage from that. I've seen some of the footage online from that. I'm looking for a new drone myself. I have a Typhoon H, which has 5 rotors and it shoots in 4K, and I really like it. But I'm always looking for something smaller and maybe a little more powerful. Is the Scarlett USB? Yes, the Scarlett is USB. I don't even think it's USB 3. I think it's just regular old USB. But I've had 2 of those, and I really like them a lot. I think Simon says, I don't think that they care about us editors. Now, that's not true. That's not true. So, of course they care about us. It's just that they operate on their own time frame, and we, expectations. I mean, look, I've been involved with the Final Cut Pro community for years and years and years. I've been involved since version 1. I've been posting articles. I used to post on kenstone.net, which is the best Final Cut Pro website of all time. It absolutely was the best. Ken Stone, but he doesn't do anything. He stopped updating that. He retired right when Final Cut Pro 10 came out, but he absolutely had the best Final Cut Pro website, hands down the best. But anyway, I wrote the first article for him for Final Cut Pro 10 on his website. I wrote the first one. I wrote it before Final Cut Pro 10 came out, based on what we saw at the LACP FUG event at NAB that year. So the Air 2, Garrett says, is very small. I have the Fly Morgan combo and an extra battery, so 4 batteries, 1 drone, and a mobile with 12 props and other stuff inside a tiny bag. Go see it in the shop. Yeah, I think, does it shoot 4K, Garrett? I think it does. But anyway, they absolutely, they don't care about us editors. Yes, they do. Especially you have to distinguish. There's 2 things. You have Final Cut Pro team, which is the people that we see at all these events, the FCPX Creative Summit, NAB, the Final Cut Pro team, and then you have Apple. And they're not the same, because sometimes the Final Cut Pro team wants to do things, and Apple says, you're not going to do that. So they put a clamp on them sometimes. And the team can't do what it wants to do with schedule-wise and things. Garrett says, yes, 4K 60, 8K in time-lapse, and great tracking. That's cool. That's very cool. So I'll be looking at a new drone at some point. So Simon says, why Logic and not Final Cut Pro? 2 different teams. The Final Cut Pro team and the Logic Pro team are 2 different teams. And the Logic Pro team, if you've ever seen their updates, are incredible. Oh, they have dozens and dozens and dozens of list items. So Final Cut Pro, so Logic Pro 10.5 came out. I said on Twitter that they're going to have an update because there's too many bugs in 10.5. Within 30 days, they had 10.5.1, so that's the latest version. I can't imagine anybody thinking that the Final Cut Pro team is asleep at the wheel. The fact that it's taken 30 months and 5 days between 10.4 and 10.5 means something big. It's got to be something big is happening with 10.5. It can't mean any less than that. Right? It has to be something gigantic. It just does. Let's check on the bird feeder, see if there's anything over there. I don't see anything. That's the garden. Past the bird feeder is my girlfriend's garden. She has she loves gardening. She grows tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff out there. But anyway, I have 3 cameras. That's one of my cameras for this setup. This is my other camera. And this is my 3rd camera, and I can switch between them. I can have different audio sources for each one. But I think we're good. Is there anything else you want to wish happy birthday to? We had all those happy birthdays at the beginning. Let's see what we have. Another comment. Perhaps Apple has purchased Adobe and we all get free updates from now on. I doubt that. I don't want them to purchase Adobe. I want them to just concentrate on Final Cut Pro and Logic. So even asking, Simon says, however, I really appreciate Final Cut Pro 10. Absolutely. I think all of us appreciate it. So here's the thing. Do not be disappointed. I appreciate your work, Simon says. Thank you very much. Do not be disappointed if we don't see 10.5 this weekend. But it's a good time for Apple to release 10.5. If they don't release it here, are they going to release it in the middle of the summer? That's a horrible time to release major software. It's just terrible. People are on vacation. People don't get a chance to work with it. So updating Final Cut, especially with features, promotes the new Mac Pro. Yes, it does. And if there's a new iMac, there's rumors there's going to be a new iMac. And there's rumors there's going to be maybe a new iMac Pro at WWDC. We'll see. They introduced the Mac Pro at WWDC. So that was last year, the year before. I can't remember which one they introduced it. So there's supposed to be a new iMac coming out, they said at WWDC. So we'll see. But I still think we could see Final Cut Pro 10.5 within the next week. During WWDC week. To me, listen, from the outside, if I'm Apple, I'm saying, let's release it now. If there's features that we can't put in this version, we'll put them in as 10.5.1 or 10.5.2 or 10.5.3, whatever. But WWDC, the whole world's attention's on Apple once again. So let's put out something. People have been waiting for a long time. 10.4.7 was last October. That didn't really have. They had a couple little features, and it had Metal 2 support, but that's minor. 10.4.4 the year before that was the bigger feature update for 10.4. 10.4.8 last December was ain't much. Bug fixes mostly. That's 6 months ago. So they're working on something big. I keep saying something big. Nobody else is saying that. I say something big. Fingers crossed. Absolutely. So we'll see. I'll be stopping on here live at any time over the weekend, right? I'll be coming out here live. If you just want to follow along, you can. Let me pull that. Wait a minute. One's on, one's off. Take that one off, turn this one on. Just, follow along, subscribe over there at youtube.com, Richard Taylor TV. That's a real good place. I always go live there. So if you go over there and subscribe, you'll be notified when I go live. I'm also on Facebook, Richard Taylor TV, but don't do a friend request there. I don't accept friend requests from people that I don't know. That's more personal and family and stuff. But you can go to youtube.com, Richard Taylor TV, facebook.com, Richard Taylor TV. You can follow on Facebook, but don't submit a friend request. I don't accept friends from people I don't know. And Periscope TV, Richard Taylor TV, Twitter, Richard Taylor TV, and some other, they're all my social media. Instagram, Richard Taylor TV. They're all the same. All right, everyone? I think we're good. Here's one of the things I've been doing recently. Let me turn a little motion graphic. Made that in Final Cut Pro, exported it, play it in Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live's great software. Let me just do this, just this real quick. There we go. I'm going to adjust my camera down a little bit so I'm better framed. So, all right, what do you think? I think that's it. I'm done. Perhaps we should all write to Tim. I'm just glad Tim knows what Final Cut Pro is, because He mentioned it at the Apple earnings call. That was cool. I wonder how many seats we have. Do you think we have 4 million by now? Very, very possible. Very, very possible. All right, let's do this one more time. Happy birthday, Final Cut Pro 10. To all the Apple people that are watching, we understand it takes a while to make this. We understand you're working on something gigantic. We all appreciate the work that you're doing. We all appreciate all these editors, even if we complain about things or gripe because something didn't happen. We all appreciate the work that the Final Cut Pro team does for us after all these years. They've been working on it for 9 years as of Monday, the 9th year. Simon says he wrote to Tim. That's good. Maybe he'll read your letter at the WWDC on Monday. But anyway, everyone, I'm going to head out of here. My name's Richard Taylor. And like I said, if you subscribe over here at the YouTube channel, youtube.com/RichardTaylorTV, all one word, you'll be notified. Click the notification button whenever I go live. You'll get the little pop-up, whatever it does, that tells you that I'm live. Most of my YouTube, I think, is all Final Cut Pro stuff. I do some other stuff, local stuff on Facebook. I stream local events, but as far as YouTube goes, I don't stream them to YouTube. All right, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. If there's no more questions, I'll wait 1 more minute. Let's just check the outside one more time. No birds out there. Usually there's birds in the backyard, but there's no birds today. Garrett says, see you on Monday night. Yeah, it'll be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And if there's any announcement, I'll be back on. I'm not going to come on during the keynote because you want to watch the keynote. I know I do. If there's any announcement, I will come on right after the keynote. If there's any announcement over the weekend, I'll be back on. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go immediately. I can come on in 10 or 15 minutes, so absolutely I will go. Once again, the best way to keep track of that, Richard Taylor TV on YouTube. Just subscribe over there, and whenever I go live, you'll get the notice. But also, I'll post on Twitter as well, and I'll post on the Final Cut Pro Facebook groups, which a lot of you are watching from right now. And Garrett says, if they release 10.5, are you going to stream? Yes, I will be streaming. Whatever time they release it, if I'm awake, they do it at midnight, I'm not going to be streaming. I'm going to be sleeping. But if they do it any other time, I will come back on. And what I'm planning on doing is having a Final Cut Pro 10.5 marathon. I'm just going to stay on the air and talk about Final Cut Pro 10.5. That's what I'm going to do. By the way, just nobody knows about this yet. If you're on Facebook, contact me on Facebook. There's a couple of secret Final Cut Pro groups that I'm starting on Facebook, but you have to be like intermediate or advanced Final Cut Pro user to get in these. The one I'm limiting to initially to 100 members. I'm not going to announce the name right now because it's secret. You can't search for it. You can't find it. But if you're a professional Final Cut Pro user and you want to get in that pro group, it's just starting out. Doesn't have any members yet. It's just starting out, but it's going to be 100 people initially. I'm going to cap it at 100. And it's just going to be for mid-level and professionals so you don't get a lot of beginner questions. Nothing wrong with beginner questions, but this group is not going to be for that. You're not going to even be able to find it. You're going to have to be invited to it. And then there's going to be another group that I'll talk about in the near future on Facebook that I'm started as well. All right, everyone. Just check the bird feeder. Well, oh, there's a bird. I'm not sure what kind that is. What is that? Is that a catbird or a mockingbird? I can't tell. I cannot tell. There we go. Oh, what is that? What kind of bird is that? We get bluebirds out there. We got all kind of birds. There's a couple of birds there. Plenty of parking spaces there, birds. You don't have to fight. So one of the things that we discovered is if you buy expensive suet, because they like suet, you get better birds. You get better quality birds, bluebirds and cardinals and blue jays occasionally and catbirds and all kinds of neat birds visit out there. They're year round. The bluebirds are around year round, and we feed them in the wintertime. And we have other things in the backyard. All right, everyone. It's exactly 1 hour right now. It's been on the air, so I am going to head out. Subscribe, youtube.com, Richard Taylor TV. There you go. That's where you want to go. Subscribe over there, and you'll be notified if I go live this weekend. I'll be going live anytime Final Cut Pro 10.5. Any news. If they release 10.4.9, I'll come on. We'll talk about that. But we'll just get on and chat about it, see what's going on, see what the features are. All right? You like my blue frame? I put a blue frame up everywhere. Something new. I put up this countdown timer. Where is that? I put up this countdown timer at the beginning, something new. I've been fooling around with different things. So anyway, Richard Taylor, youtube.com, Richard Taylor TV. Go ahead, head over there. You can also go to, let me turn that off. You can go to FCPRadio.com for the latest information about Final Cut Pro Radio, my audio podcast. Right? And FCPX.TV is where you can find the article about Happy Birthday Final Cut Pro. I've had this up since Final Cut Pro 10.0, FCPX.TV. I'll have a lot of links to articles out there once 10.5 arrives, whenever it arrives. Blue frame is cool. I figured I might something a little different. Christopher says hello from Canada. And listen, like I said, don't be disappointed if it doesn't happen, but I think there's a possibility it happens, and if it does, we'll be celebrating over the weekend or Monday, Tuesday. Maybe they'll just announce it on WWDC. Who the heck knows? All right, everyone, I'm going to head out of here. I appreciate everybody stopping by, and Richard Taylor, that's me, I will be back. I will be back anytime. Yeah, he says, will it ever arrive? 10.5, it'll be here. It'll be sometime in 2020. But I suspect, since we're at 30 months and 5 days, the longest between full number updates of any Final Cut Pro update. 10.4 is now 30 months and 5 days old. All right? Thanks to the Final Cut Pro team. Happy birthday, Final Cut Pro. Absolutely. I am going to head out of here. Let's just play this one more time. So long, everyone. Happy birthday, Final Cut Pro. Happy birthday, Final Cut Pro team. Thanks for doing everything that you do. We all appreciate you. We hopefully will see Final Cut Pro 10.5 this weekend. If not, we'll have to see it a bit later. See y'all later. Talk to you later. Subscribe over there at Richard Taylor TV on YouTube. Talk to you.